Thank you all. Call the meeting to order. If you would, let's stand and pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Thomas, would you do us the honor of the invocation?
Y'all bow your heads, please. Father, again, we thank you for all the many, many blessings. Thank you for allowing us to get together. We just ask you to be with us and put your hand on us and guide us and help us make good decisions for the people we represent. This we ask you in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, I need a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll make a motion. I second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Need a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Make a motion to approve. I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Appearances, Mr. John McLeod, Peach Pit. Come on up.
Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
I am John McLeod over at the Peach Pit. I am an Army Junior ROTC instructor over at Taylor County High School. I'm also one of the facilitators for the Strengthening Families program. On behalf of my wife Gwendolyn, who's under the weather, we want to thank you for considering renewing the partnership with the Peach Pit again to apply for the Delinquency Prevention Grant for Strengthening Families program. The grant through the State Criminal Justice Coordinating Council does not require matching funds, and the application deadline is this August 16th. This grant cycle is the final of a 3-year grant for this program, and the funding request remains at $42,000. This amount hinges on your decision about where families can come from, which I'll discuss in a few minutes. Our classes are normally held for Crawford County on Thursday evenings from 5:30 to 8 in Fort Valley. This is the upcoming year for Strengthening Families. Again, the goal is 10 families for 11-week sessions. Orientation will hold in the fall with classes beginning in January. We provide dinner for the families from locally owned restaurants, classes and incentives, and childcare to each family participating in the program. Some of the incentives within the scope of the funding, Girl Scout cookies, board games, puzzles, and laundry detergent. The families are chosen from various referring entities, including the Crawford County Juvenile Court, schools, community partners in Restoring Inspiration by Success in Education, or the RISE program, which is a district attorney's diversion program. Ideally, we seek youth that are high risk or at risk, and priority goes to those high risk students, including those with family caretakers who abuse illegal substances, first-time offenders are diverted from the juvenile justice system, or charged or identified with an offense that's at risk. Each family is offered one equine-assisted family psychotherapy session after completing at least 3 classes. It used to be 10 or completing the program. And it's a program where they work and interact with horses. With our physical 2024 cohort, we had 5 families to begin. 3 completed the entire program, and those 5 families had 8 teens and children or their siblings referred for services. 4 of the teens/children completed the program. This year, the Peach Pit asks you to consider one of 2 options for serving the families. Option 1, which is our preferred is our recommended option, is to allow up for 40% of the families to come from surrounding counties, including Houston, Taylor, Dooley, and Twiggs. Bottom line, we're not filling our maximum, so if we can't meet that threshold for Crawford, let's open it up to other counties. Peach County is applying separately, so no families will be referred from Peach County. We feel this concession is necessary to ensure to have robust class participation for each cohort. Each grant cycle, we've had to turn away families from outside communities, so we ask you to consider that because they don't live in Crawford. But we've had 5 families from Crawford to start and complete the program in total. We're having challenges recruiting families. We are looking at other options, public service announcements via TV and also radio. Option 2 is to reduce the number of families from 10 to 5 as a goal and reduce the number of cohorts from 2 to 1, thus reducing the amount of funds, cutting them in half from 42 to 21,000. Gwendolyn McLeod of the Peach Pit has discussed proposed changes with the state's fidelity coordinator for the grant and was told the change would not violate the grant and would be viewed as a partnership with other counties. The signatories on the memorandum of understanding would remain unchanged as the Board of Commissioners would still be the grant applicant. She's available. Her number is 478-827-3224 to answer any outstanding questions. Some of our outcomes: decreased use and intention to use alcohol, drugs, tobacco. The program improves parent-child attachment and family relations, communication, and organization. Improves adults' parenting skills, reductions in excessive punishments. Ooh, I needed this when I was a child. or lacks discipline on the parents or the adult's part. Reducing youth behavior problems to include substance use, conduct disorders, aggression, and juvenile delinquency. Decreasing the children's behavior problem, increasing the family cohesion, communication, and organization. I am one of the facilitators with the family, and all I can say is I just remember this one man from Peach County, a young man, 15 years old, homeschooled, a lot of problems, just going back and forth with the parents, specifically the father, and actually to the point where they would get into it, and sometimes it's a father calling the police, sometimes it's a son calling the police. And just to hear from the parents that the young man is, well, his therapist or psychiatrist is saying, hey, can we get some information about this program? Because the transformation this young man has made, the family's just getting better. Are they where they're supposed to be? No, but they're well on the pathway. So I thank you for your time and appreciate it, and I'll be around for any questions. So pending any questions, that concludes my presentation.
Okay, so the application process is gonna open August the 16th. Ms. Wynn is out sick with COVID. She couldn't be here, so she sent her husband in place. We have previously had this grant in place already. You all approved it 2-3 years ago. It is a no match grant, totally funded from the state. Our office controls the account and everything is submitted into us to submit to the state for reimbursement. Everything is a wash. So, no problems with payments, anything, no. And Ms. Gwendolyn and her staff paperwork is always jammed up, no issues on our behalf. So, yes.
I didn't understand the reasoning for dropping it from 10 families to 5. Was it because we didn't need
Participation.
it?
Yes, sir, just because of the lack of participation like this, we intended to have a cohort going on right now. We had one family show up, we had 3 actually said, signed up, we will go, and then, just trying to contact them. Oh, well, we're on vacation, or well, we can't make it, we've had a rough day, so those challenges, that's why we are looking at, public service announcements and the like, just to help, recruit families, get them to commit, going to the schools, and then also expanding, because, as all of you, if we're able to get 42,000 to try to work the program, then we can increase the number of participants. But again, it's no cost to Crawford County, just helping us identify the applicants.
And that was the other thing, you all would have to decide if she can't get the participation up here, will you all allow other people from other counties to come in those seats that's not taken up from Crawford? Again, like you said, no cost to us, but it's up to you all. If we don't make the number, then we will have to allow the program to be cut in half.
I guess the question I have is, dropping from 42,000 to 21,000, if it's state funded, if we can get the money from the state, let's get it.
Yes, sir, and of
But
course.
that's the only thing we can use it for, I'm sure.
That's it. I mean, everything gotta fall within the guidelines of that program.
Do you have to have something up front to show before you can get the grant? I mean, that's.
And of course, sir, the priority, look, if 9 Crawford families show up, Crawford's got the priority because it's your grant.
I got a question. I know you said you were with Taylor County School System.
Yes, sir.
Have y'all tried to reach out like to Crawford County schools and, you know, just,
She's active here, very active.
Okay.
Yes, sir. She's here, she's at the court, she's.
okay.
Any other questions?
You all would just have to decide if you want to enter into it again.
Any issues with going to other counties? Nothing that's
I don't see any issue.
legal?
No, sir.
I make a motion, we go with option 1.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank y'all.
Okay, thank you.
And you just tell me when I'll be in touch with her.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Miss Sharon Bishop, Animal Control.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Hey, Commissioners, I appreciate the opportunity to come back and revisit the animal control issue. If you recall, I came to y'all at the beginning of January, I think January, middle of January, with the bad feral dog issue back in back of my house. It's been there since I bought the house in 2000, but it's slowly getting a little bit worse. It got better for a little while. We started out with close to 30 dogs, 28, I believe was the actual number when I contacted y'all at the beginning of the year. And a rescue actually had come in and pulled out, I think, 21 of the 28 dogs and puppies that I had back there. And this span also runs across Marshall Mill Road to a certain area. The rescues pulled out, and at that time, I got with Jake in an email and just made sure that if the rescue pulled out, the county would uphold their part of what they said they were going to do. And he had said that the dogs, he said that he was waiting on to talk to a neighbor of mine because he wanted to put the trap, for whatever reason, on the neighbor's property versus mine, although I've been the one complaining for all these years. And the dogs have access and trails running back and through my yard. But he said that he would contact the owner, get the okay to do that, and then based on the success or lack of success of trapping any of the dogs, they'll determine how long to leave those traps out there. We're at that point, I'm 5 months I mean, the end of February to the end of July, 5 months. And I just was hoping that there would be an update. I've really got a concern, not just with the feral dogs now back there, and of the 7, 3 of those dogs are pregnant and had puppies already. Where they are, don't know, but the mama dogs are running that trail. It was easier for us to get the little puppies back when Elizabeth was feeding them, the one neighbor. But she was instructed not to feed them, so now those puppies are moving back in the woods. But now there's an issue with dogs on Chapman Road. So now I've got owned dogs, as far as I know. They're coming from Chapman Road, so I'm assuming people own them. I believe Alexis has gotten several calls about those dogs. Owned or unowned, those dogs are now crossing Chapman Road, across Marshall Mill, following those dogs. I've got trails now of another neighborhood's dogs joining mine, the feral dogs back there that were giving me a problem. But I just would like to see an update or hear the update, see where we are with that. Is the trap still out there? How often has the trap been checked? How often has it been set? I know that the heat with the dogs was an issue because there's only Alexis working there, as far as I know, and Rachel every now and then. But there was an issue of how long can we leave the dog in that trap? So during the summer, but we're approaching fall, cooler weather's coming. I don't know if the neighbor, Terry Slider, I don't know, I don't talk to my neighbor, unfortunately, on that end, but I don't know if the trap's being set, if it's not being set, how many dogs of the 7 maybe have been trapped, if any. But I'd like to hear some kind of update because my problem's growing. It's growing now. So, any kind of update?
Jake, you got anything, Jake? Got any kind of update? Help us
Commissioners,
with?
at this point, I don't have an update in regards to what she's asking.
Is the trap still out at Terry's property?
Yes,
Are y'all setting the trap?
currently don't have space in the kennel to capture any of it.
Okay, and I can accept that answer based on your ordinance, Jake. You don't have the space. It's in the county ordinance. And please let me read it. Destroying animals, any animal which is suffering excessively or which exhibits feral or wild tendencies and or may present a perceived danger to persons or other animals may be, without regard of confinement period, destroyed by the most humane method available. Is darting an option? I'm not a fan of killing anything. But why keep letting them multiply out there, commissioners? The problem isn't going away. It's coming from other areas. Now the puppies, before we could get the puppies and give them to rescue, now we don't even know where the puppies are because nobody can feed the dogs. They're running back further in those woods. Is darting an option? That's in your ordinance. At what point, commissioners, y'all don't live where I live. It's real easy to not see the problem, but I see it daily. We see the animals starving because we can't feed them, and they're multiplying still. We've got a trap set out there. Do you know how many times it's been set in the last 5 months?
Not off the top of my head.
Mr. Miller, if I may. The parts you mentioned out there, once those dogs are feral like that, past 5 or 6 months, you go A to B. You go from the trap to the vet to disposal of the body. That's the problem you got out there. As I mentioned before, when I was knocking on doors, it is not Pottery Road. It is Carl Sutton. It's all the way over to Girl Scout Road where they were attacking livestock, okay? Now that has diminished some, but the cows were encircling the calves because I asked him how many calves had been killed. He said 0. He said, well, what happened? He said, as my cows encircled the calves, he said, as they were fighting off the feral dogs, because one of the questions I had was, oh no, it's coyotes. I said, he's got it on video, okay? It's not coyotes. I said, dogs rip the throats out, disembowel them. They usually don't eat them. Coyotes, fox, etc. There's usually remnants, rib cage, etc., etc. They can be taken. It's not a matter of the kennels are full, okay? It's a matter of A to B to C on the feral dogs, because we don't need to go back to the Wild West. Memory serves me right, she's already had a dog or two shot because of the Wild West syndrome. We don't need the mass poisonings. We need enforcement. And on that, I will give a quick update. We will have something to y'all. We, Barbara Kelly, Tina Pancake, myself, about the middle of October. But we can go from an 11-page ordinance right now that needs to be enforced with the teeth to a 16 or 126. But we've got to have enforcement. It's kind of plain and simple, but it's not just Pottery Road. And the answer is not what some people have mentioned about do away with animal control. We need that in Crawford County. But we have to enforce, just like law enforcement, the laws that are on the books. It's simple.
I just want to add to something he said on the Crawford County page this week, and it's over in her area on Chapman Road, where people are starting to complain about dogs getting into their trash, tearing up stuff under their homes, and and then it came up with people shooting them, poisoning them, and you know, one guy even came on there and says, "Be careful where you're shooting," because a lady's house was shot at because a dog, he was trying to shoot at a dog. So we're talking about not just the dogs being done. Now we got humans that are putting other humans in danger trying to take care of a dog problem.
My full intent was to come back April, May, but because my German Shepherd was shot in my yard, I didn't. I called Sharon, I called Jake, and I was gonna come and address it. I called Sheriff Walker to make a complaint, but my grandson is in that yard. There's somebody back there trying to get rid of the problem themselves, and it's gonna hurt somebody. But my dog was shot with a .22 in my yard. Y'all didn't see me again until now. And now the main thing, Chapman Road dogs are coming up. St. Mark Church Road has got the feral problem. Carl Sutton. At some point, dart the dogs. I mean, Jake, is there a good reason why?
Boils down to funding. The amount of money that's allocated for animal control in this county was designed to be able to contain animals that were involved with rabies cases, quarantine, and so forth like that. Animals that were showing signs of aggressiveness out, attacking people and so forth, to be able to confine those animals and so forth.
You don't need.
So if you want the expectations that are being discussed in this room tonight, here in a few minutes, you're gonna have a budget question and answer. Look at the amount of money that's being appropriated for animal control. If you want more, the community has to pay more, because you got one person that you're expecting to solve this dilemma. I guarantee you, if you ask Miss Pancake and ask her, would her rescue be willing to provide the services that's being demanded for the amount of money that the county is allocating for animal control? Not only would she say no, she would say it's impossible to do. So if we're gonna have high expectations, you're gonna have to
No.
fund it, and the funding comes from taxes. Property taxes, ad valorem taxes,
How much?
retail. So it's a funding problem, basically.
Now, I would go to Miss Pancake with a logical question, such as, if we got puppies, newborn, and your rescue had room, would you take them? And I bet her answer would be yes. We're talking about how much is a dart? Do you even know how much the medication is?
How much does it cost to train somebody to operate that?
You have people that shouldn't even have a gun running around out there trying to take care of the problem.
County that is qualified to do that. All of that stuff has to be taken in consideration. If you go back time and time again, we have explained that the program has to be grown, and not only does the community have to be involved, because ultimately it goes back to a society issue, unresponsible animal owners. So how do you solve the problem from a county perspective? It takes.
I'm not talking about a stray. I'm talking about feral dog out there. I've got pictures. I know which ones are feral. So if you brought me a dog that y'all got and said, "Oh, is this?" No. So that must be somebody's. But how much is a dart, Jake? Do you know how much the medication is?
So let me make sure I'm putting this down. So you want a guard an animal or what have you, then bring that animal to you.
Absolutely
and
not.
ID it and say that's a pet or that's a stray.
The smart thing would be to trap it, and let's compare the pictures if we were that worried about it. But like he said, those dogs are they don't even have to be kenneled. You just said that it's because y'all don't have room. Now it's going back now to the community has to bring in, and these are answers that every time, and I've been coming to you for a long time, every time it's a different reason as to why we can't. And my grandson could have been that dog shot, Jake. You got somebody running around taking care of the problem.
Which region are you in? The difference is.
I'm on Pottery Road.
We don't have the personnel to handle all that is the main reason. It's not in our budget.
Okay, so what is the answer? What is the answer?
We're gonna discuss it when the budget comes up.
How about this? You have the personnel to have somebody, because dogs bed down back there. It's my property. Mind you, they bed down back there because it's all brushed up and I'm willing for somebody to come and chop all that down. So that this winter, guess what, Mr. Thomas? I don't want the dogs in my yard. The trap, I don't understand why the trap can't be set in my yard. The only thing I can think of is, and this is going back to the water days, when you and Fabian Hollis and Bill Patton came to my yard, and you promised me, wouldn't no county worker come back in my yard? But why can't that trap be moved to the person calling those complaints? I mean, I hope it's not for what you had said, because that would be wrong. But you have a trap out there right now that hadn't been set in how long? Who knows? Is it long? Or do we, I'm sorry, let's see.
I don't appreciate when I'm sitting in a room to have somebody that represents this county to speak on my behalf. I don't speak for myself. So if you want to ask me something and have me respond, I'd appreciate that. Now, I will direct you, but he directed that to y'all about me, so I had the right to say that. So what I would like to say is I know that trap has only been set 3 times since February. It was set 1 time in March. It was set twice in April. It is now sitting there with a chain on it, not so nobody steals it, so that nobody sets it. That's pathetic. We are breeding dogs in this county that are going to rise up and not only kill chickens and other animals, they're going to start attacking people. This has got to stop. It ain't about the money. Individuals came in and took 20 dogs from that feral colony on our own, unqualified to do it, but we did it because we couldn't sit by and watch animals die. I'm here for the animals, not the sorry county that don't support us. And yes, I'm mad because I'm seeing puppies die, and I love animals, and I'm fed up with it. Something needs to be done. Don't tell me you don't have room. They don't have to go there. The 4 adults that we took away from there went straight to a vet and had to be euthanized. That shouldn't keep happening. There was 16 puppies that have life. Another one from the new batch of litters that are born that we don't know where they're at because somebody had the bright idea. Stop feeding them so they can disperse, and then we can't do nothing about the problem. We've gotten one 2.5, 3-week-old puppy that now has a chance at life. We shouldn't be doing that. We shouldn't have to do that. You have an ordinance that, yes, it needs to be enforced. It's not up to the citizens of this county to decide how it's enforced. Don't have an ordinance if you don't plan on enforcing it. It means nothing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, this just don't apply to your area.
No,
it's a
of course not.
countywide deal.
Oh, I'm sorry. Could I add one more thing?
Let me finish first.
Okay.
We have 2 Great Pyrenees running around in our neighborhood. They're air tagged. The owner knows right where they're at, but will not come get them. So, I mean, there's stuff like that going on everywhere.
You don't have 30 dogs. We're building our number, Mr. Jump, right back up to that. We started out with 28. Rescue took 21, leaving 7. 3 of those 7 I know are female because I've seen the pregnant dogs. That means that there's puppies somewhere that we don't even know where those puppies are. We can't get them. But now we know that we've got 3 females, 4 males, or whatever the other ones are, the puppies, and now I got the crew coming up from Chapman Road. That's what the number doesn't stop. And I've been doing this since 2000, before animal control existed. I did it back in Frank Miller's days. Frank Miller said, Miss Bishop, put up a fence. Commissioners, guess what I did? $7,000 later, I had a fence. I did what the county told me to do.
I did every step of it. And for them not to even be able to put the trap in my yard, the person that's been complaining and the most harassed with the issue because the other neighbors moved into that area, I think it speaks for itself. I do.
Well, we'll keep digging into it, all I can tell you. We'll see what Mr. Melvin and his crew, Miss Pancake, come back with.
Another situation is happening on Sandy Point Circle. Last September, residents called that 3 dogs had been dumped off. We're full, we can't take them. Now there's 3 dogs, one of them's had puppies. Now there's 8 on Sandy Point Road from that very dog. I've reached out twice to say these dogs are in the street. They're 3-month-old puppies. Now, that was a month ago. Now you got 4 months on it. You know, eventually they get to the point that no rescue's gonna touch them. They're gonna be your next feral pack. When does it stop? And as a licensed rescue in this county, the only one, I get email after email after email, only because I don't get my phone number out, telling me I'm not getting a response with my animal issue. I live in such and such area of the county. So it's not isolated, it's not here, we're just gonna have feral dogs everywhere.
And it's different from having 2 Pyrenees running around, feral dogs. I mean, they inhibit me from keeping on the back of my property. I can't use it.
I have one question for the general public is, how long do you keep a dog pinned up at the shelter before it's euthanized?
Crawford
That's a good
County?
question, that's a good question.
Because that's a question, how long do you, so you're saying you know which dogs are feral. We don't. How do you depend, who knows how long it is? How long do you give that individual to come claim their dog?
Well, the feral dogs don't have to go.
The feral dogs don't have to go.
How do you know it's a feral dog?
The ones that are running back there in those woods.
I think you have pictures. That's
Uh-huh.
not, okay, I understand, but that's not for, Jake's not gonna go out there and check. I can say, hey, you got a feral dog and it's my neighbor just because I'm ticked off
I
that
got
person.
you, yeah.
So I can lie about
But
it. So
that's
it's
why.
not, it's an individual, so you don't know. So you have to have a time frame to say, okay, in 2 months, that dog's gotta be euthanized, or 2 weeks, or a week. How long does, as a general public rule, what is a fair amount of time for somebody to come claim their dog?
He would,
72 hours is what the county.
3 days, I think. 3
So
days.
3 days would be enough for you. So if your dog gets out of there, it's captured, you're on vacation, you didn't know it, you come home, your dog's dead. I'm just, this is what,
no
But
different.
they have
What are you gonna
pictures,
do?
they have pictures of
You
these
can work
feral
with somebody in
dogs.
the community that's willing to do this. If we're willing to do it on our own, we're definitely willing to work alongside somebody.
That's
You can
true, too.
call 4 different people could ID these dogs out there. You trap them, even.
They've got video and pictures of the
Yeah,
feral
you
dogs.
Tranquilize them. One of us would be able to come out there.
I'll take a week off work.
And every time the issue comes
I'll
up
put my
over there,
vacation.
every time the issue comes up over there, Tina will share pictures and say, is this the dogs? And people will say, yes, it's not, or no, it's not. So they know which ones are pets or drop-offs versus the feral dogs that are aggressive.
But how long do dogs stay in the shelter?
I don't know.
I don't know what, I forgot.
Well, you
Jake,
can
how
go
long
to
do
the,
we
you
keep
can
the
go
dog
to
in
the
the
Department of
shelter?
Agriculture's webpage, and if you can track it down through pets, you'll find where the shelter has to input their numbers monthly, to how many dogs are in the shelter, how they come in and how they go out. Check
It's
that out,
enlightening.
because there's a lot of discrepancies there and a lot of answers need to come
So
from.
you said 72 hours is appropriate time, enough time.
That's according to our ordinance.
Crawford
That's what
County.
it says, 72
Is that a
hours in
fair,
the county ordinance.
is that a fair number is what I'm asking? You've been out since being a
Well, if
rescue.
you look at the records I'm talking about on the Department of Ag, if they're accurate, the number of dogs, the amount of time, for somebody to reclaim an animal is usually within 3 days. If it's posted, there needs to be more activity as far as posting on the county page that the animals have come into the county, so people know where to look for them.
Or even fostering.
So how long do you have before it's rescued? So it's a rescue dog, we don't know if it's,
You mean a dog being pulled and going to a rescue?
yeah, so look, versus a dog, so if you got a dog in the shelter, we don't know if that dog could be adopted or not, correct?
Well, she could do a behavior assessment on them, within that first week of having it.
How long do we keep the ones that can be adopted?
That's a question for animal control.
I'm asking the general
According to
public.
their documentation, anywhere from the 3 days to 200 and something days.
So if we have nobody adopting our dog for 200 days, that means our shelter stays full.
Exactly.
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 And while that shelter's staying full with those same 9 dogs, the rest are out there multiplying.
So how do we, that's what the question becomes is how, as a general public, you all have to make a decision on how quick do we euthanize dogs and start going through.
Well, you gotta ask yourself, do you want these 9 to die, or do you want there to be thousands more out there being made that are then gonna have to die also?
That are feral and stuff.
That's feral.
Alright, we'll dig into it, it's all I can say.
Thank you, commissioners. That's all I ask. Yeah.
I don't have the solution.
All right, listen,
All right, public hearing.
When you talk about great pyramid, I think the, ordinance is 11 pages. Should be called in. There should be action. There are citations. People can be held accountable and have to pay a fine. So it goes back to enforcement.
Yep.
That's the key. You can have whatever you want to, but it's the key. Ours will have more teeth in it, but it goes back to enforcement.
You know, I keep hearing enforcement. We don't have anybody to really, a real dog catcher, so to speak. Jake can't do all this himself that we're asking him to do. He has other jobs besides that, so it's something we're gonna have to discuss. We might even have to consider hiring somebody else. But the county has to pay for all that.
And Mr. Thomas, with that being said, this is the only county, I've only lived in 8 counties, but this is the only county I've ever lived in that animal control is handled by planning and zoning. It's always been held up underneath the sheriff's department. I don't know why, which I don't know a lot of things, but there are very few counties apparently that must have it with planning and zoning, but good point.
Well,
Good
we try
point.
to keep everybody's taxes down as low as we can. Every time we hire a person, everything goes up, so.
Sheriff's department.
But we are gonna look into this more. I'm an animal lover too. I have a little dog that sleeps with me every night, and I love them all.
Can I say
But-
something?
Sure.
Now, a few minutes ago, you stated that you had 2 dogs in your neighborhood running around, and they were tagged, and the owners won't come get them. Have those owners been fined?
I don't know, not that I'm aware of.
And that's what the
Why
ordinance
wouldn't you call and have them come out and sign it? You being a commissioner,
Start somewhere.
and you gotta start somewhere exactly. If you know of of people that have dogs out there that want you to come get them, call the law and have them fined.
And there's your money for your dog.
All right,
I've got one more question, Liz, and I'll get out. Jake, the darting, have you looked into that? What is that involved? I'm not familiar with that. So everyone will know.
So the first thing would, Alexis would have to coordinate with a local veterinarian to be able to be certified, because the authority would fall up under one of the local veterinarians. That's who would actually dispense the tranquilizer substance. And, you know, so Alexis would have to go through and be able to judge an animal's size to determine the dosage, and then, of course, the county would have to purchase the actual mechanism to discharge the dart and so forth. I'm sure there's a course or two that she would need to go through just from a liability standpoint, because I know, obviously, anytime you're discharging anything, you know, we're gonna just naturally inherit some kind of liability, because what happens if she overdoses an animal and it doesn't tranquilize them, but it actually puts them down, and it turns out it was a pet or what have you, so all of that stuff will be taken into consideration.
But if it's a feral dog, I'm not recommending running out there darting everything. If it's a feral dog and you dart it too much, we're gonna euthanize it anyway. So,
Okay, I'm gonna say one more thing, Sharon. I'd like you to look into it. Is there some kind of state that we can get with this? I'm not sure where to go with this, but.
or even other
it's a problem.
counties asking.
It is a real problem. Okay.
In our research, we are checking with other counties, because you can put a lethal dose in a dart. And we're also working with a couple of counties right now, as we're going through the endeavor that Barbara Kelly, Tina Pancake, and I are doing. So, but you can, feral dog, identified, dart, lethal dose, don't go to the vet.
all right. All right, moving on to public hearing. We have a
Thank you.
special exception, Crawford Solar Power LLC, P&Z staff.
Good evening. As most of you recall, in 2022, Crawford Solar Power LLC was granted an extension to a special exception that was originally granted in 2018 for a solar project out on the intersection of Carl Sutton Road and Causey Road. The tract of land here, the main power line, transmission line that runs diagonally through the southern part of the tract there. The original special exception, as most of you are familiar with, is only for 12 months. Once we realized that the project was not going to get started, it was extended for an additional 24 months in 2020, then extended again in 2022. Well, we are now at the end of that extension, so the applicant has reached out and asked to extend it for another 24 months. I do have representatives from Ecoplexus here with me this evening, but before we get into that, the project is the exact same as was presented in 2022. There are no changes. On Thursday, July the 18th, 2024, Planning and Zoning Commission. Darren Suggs, Richard Joyner, Barbara Kelly, Crystal Patton, Joe Romeo, Brandon Kelly, and Wessel Taxon was present. The presentation or a public hearing for a special exception for Crawford Solar Power LLC for tax map C099 parcel 011, approximately 1,600, a little less than 1,615 acres, 1,615 acres. Discussion was held regarding the 2-year continuance on the special exception to allow public and private utility structures in building in a RAG district. Based on no proposed changes to the original project and no developmental changes surrounding the property, Mr. Kelly motioned to approve the continuance. Ms. Kelly seconded. The motion was approved 6-1 with Mr. Romeo opposed. As mentioned, there were no changes being proposed to the original project. I do have Mr. Seth and Miss Olivia from Ecoplexus here this evening, and between the three of us, we'll be happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
It's already been approved once, the only question I have is why haven't we been working on it already? And when did we propose to go work on it again?
Can you repeat the first part of the question for me, please?
I'm sorry.
Can you repeat
the
the
first
first part?
question was, why haven't we been working on the project? Why was it delayed again?
The main delays has been due to contracting with Georgia Power. That's the one route to get the project contracted, financed, and built. So we've been working on that. In the background, we're going through the process right now with them, but COVID has put a big halt on a lot of projects being built over the last several years.
Sure.
And even Georgia Power contracting projects as well that put a big damper on pricing for them.
And the other question was, are we ready to go to work on it now?
Again, we're going through the process with Georgia Power on contracting. Right now, we're looking to start construction in either a year to year and a half. So in the later part of 2025 or early 26 is what the plan is. Yes, ma'am.
What about the DNR? Have y'all worked with them yet on the tortoises that are there?
Yes, we have a vendor that we're working with. They work with other developers, DNR, and different types of projects.
So since the P&Z meeting, when y'all had not talked to them, because it came up then, and Ms. Kelly brought it up that the DNR had not been contacted when she contacted them, you have now contacted them?
So we previously had conversations with them, and we are using the vendor as kind of a middleman between us and DNR. We haven't had any direct conversations with them since that last meeting, but we have met with them, and they've had discussions with DNR as well as other people that they're doing gopher tortoise mitigation efforts with.
Who is them?
Tetra Tech.
Because the tortoises have to be moved and the DNR has to be involved before that's done.
Correct. All that has to be cleared before construction can start.
Anything else?
Yeah, what are the benefits to the county?
What would you be bringing to the county?
It would be tax incentives for the county, additional tax revenue from the projects.
Well, we'll have a number?
I think we had a number at the last meeting, right?
Yeah, so naturally you have the assessed value of the project. So we did ask the tax assessors to come and join us this evening. So on typical projects of this nature, that falls up under their specialty. So I'm gonna kick it over to Ms. Helen and Mr. Nick to elaborate on how the taxing is done for a solar operation.
So, my name's Nick. The way this would work is that they are going to have an operating agreement that's going to come with certain stipulations of like what they can be taxed on and what they can't. But we already have some solar projects here in the county. Atlanta Sand has one. Anybody that would like to see this after the meeting, I'll be happy to give you. I have several copies. We would take 100% value of what the IRS reported value of the solar panels is. It is then taken by 40% in the millage rate. It decreases around 5 to 7% a year in depreciation, and it usually stops at a minimum of 20% value of where it starts, up until the point they remove. But some of those things are contingent upon the exact agreement that is done with the county and the company that's coming in. But basically, you're going to have, if it starts at $100 million, it's going to be the millage rate times 40% of that. Every year, decreasing 5 to 7% a year. And anybody that would like to see an example of like how it's working for Atlanta Sands paper, I'll be happy to give it.
So do you have numbers instead of percentages? Like
Yes, ma'am. I have for example, the solar farm started out for Atlanta Sand at $652,455, and the current value on that is, and that was 4 years ago, is $567,636. Depends on what millage rate is adopted by the board and the school board, and that's how you would get to your dollar figure per year. But that's anybody that's willing to come to the office. I can show you exactly what each business generates per year, like the estimated taxes from year to year. But it really depends on what is decided millage rate wise and what that individual business does. Like Atlanta Sand has over $11 million, and they're being taxed on about $6 million, and that would be. If y'all bear with me to bring up my phone for a second, so I can get you exact dollar amount. 2.4. So, I'm sorry, y'all.
what'd you say, Mr. Gary?
2.4.
2.4.
So that's bringing in about $75,000 a year. I believe some of the numbers I saw were, considerably high numbers. So depending on what it is they're going to be taxed on, you could see hundreds of thousands of dollars in tax revenue. But it really depends on the exact personal property of the project itself.
How much is the tax on this land now?
Jake, can you click? You're on Q Public for me. Can you click on the detail page there for me?
Yeah.
And then click on report.
I just need to know that number right there. By the
You'll
side.
have to say it.
Click on assessment notice right there.
Yeah, there it is.
Can somebody read it for those of us that
I can't see.
Yes, ma'am.
Approximately $18,000, $8,000 to the county, $9,200 to the school system. I was gonna say $10,000 to the school system.
I think another thing we need to correlate on this too, and not taking away any thunder from Jake, Nick. My question is, how big is the arena at the sand pit that they have?
So it's actually quite small.
Okay.
It's
How many
probably
acres do you
it's
think?
about 100 solar panels by maybe 30.
Okay,
So about 100 by 30, and they're probably 2.5 feet wide.
footprint.
You probably know better idea on the size.
No,
of what the solar panel
footprint,
itself.
as far as acreage.
I mean, not
One
even an
acre.
acre.
Okay.
So 500,000 on not even an acre.
No,
To give you guys an idea.
No, and that's what I wanna correlate, because and we've got, how many acres are you putting that on? How many acres are you gonna utilize? Approximately?
Approximately around 1,000.
1,000, okay. So we got 1 acre versus 1,000. Now, let's go further as we dig into this. What we're looking for is, what is the life cycle, 35 years?
Yeah, approximately.
Okay, that was brought up at P&Z. I didn't know if y'all had that or not from the P&Z meeting. I'm trying to have some recall. There's another thing that's also put into that, and that is at the end of the 35 years, it's my understanding that they have to return it to as is, where is, how they found it. Is that a true statement?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, there's another thing too that they had to correlate, which it was being discussed. Barbara Kelly brought up some very good information on the gopher tortoises. If you're familiar with those, if you're not, they're big mothers. But evidently, when the land was cleared, the land's already been cleared. It's already been pulped, so it's already down there. But that has evidently brought in the gopher turtles because they like that type terrain. So they do have to work with DNR. And that should be a part of this if it is in fact approved, that, you know, that this cycle has to be continued to be worked on with DNR as far as the initial footprint. I would also recommend, since y'all are stating if you're given another 2 years, that you're gonna start working within a year and a half. You're gonna start breaking ground. Is that a true statement?
That's the plan.
Okay, that's the plan. Can you submit a schedule? Or do you have a schedule put together yet? I know you're working, but in other words, from best to worst case or worst to best case.
Yeah.
Okay, so you could turn that in also.
Potentially, yes. It will be contingent on what happens with Georgia Power, because ultimately they're kind of the hinge piece.
I know, but
with
the
all
thing
the
about
time.
it is you can submit, you can have an initial plan
Yes.
going forwards right now.
Yes.
And you can keep them notified as far as working with DNR, because it seemed like the major, well, I'll be blunt, turn the punch bowl, was the gopher turtles, okay? That is what.
He's not gonna have any choice but to deal with them.
I know, but what I'm saying is that seemed to be the major problem. But from what I understand, as they were stating, it's same as it was before, except correlating 1 acre to that many acres is a substantial bump. Plus knowing that it has to be returned back to as is, where is, or where is as is at the end of that tenure.
We've already done all this once, so it's.
Okay, well, I didn't know because it seemed like this wasn't coming up, so that's why I wanted to mention that.
Right.
Because especially that point on the revenue generated from 1 acre to the revenue generated for the other, for those that were asking questions that we didn't hear any answers on yet.
The plan is roughly 1,000.
So,
So the math on that would be about $700,000.
okay.
A year?
I mean, a year, but again, it's gonna fluctuate.
And it decreases.
Diminishing
Goes down.
value, but a year, starting out,
Starting
diminishing
out.
value. And how much did you say it would diminish, Nick, per year?
Patrice wants to say.
5%?
Yeah.
Okay.
About 5 to 7% a year.
Okay.
Is about what they depreciate. Depends on what's reported to the IRS. We basically go on what's been reported to the IRS year to year.
Ms. Patrice?
My concern is that this is an agreement that was signed in 2018,
Yeah.
and a whole lot of things have changed since 2018, and is that agreement still contingent as to what they wanna do? And also, they did ask for tax abatements,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of tax
Yep.
abatements, so,
Thank
you know.
Thank you for that.
Yep.
And didn't the company change, didn't y'all, from the original company that got the original thing in 2020? It's changed.
Y'all
Yep.
bought it from Kruger?
Yes, Kruger.
Kruger?
Yeah.
So that's who it was originally approved under.
So the original agreement
That's just it.
is not with y'all, so we need a new agreement, it sounds to me like.
Mm-hmm.
When you bought out Kruger, I assume you bought out their assets and liabilities?
Yes,
You bought their
everything,
contract?
everything in relation to Crawford LLC, correct?
But we're
So
still.
the agreement still stands, but it
but
could
it's
do
still
for a
coming up for
refresh,
special assessment.
because she is correct. You done? You good? Alright, so we did have tax abatements, and we had a structured payment based upon those abatements. So they had an abatement for some period of time, then it fell back to the valuation, like Nick was talking about, and it is structured over a number of years as to how much they will have to pay based upon the valuation. That's it. That's the simple version of a 30-something page agreement.
Is this something that he needs to get with TISA, the Developmental Authority, and work out and bring back?
If you want a new agreement, yes.
Sounds like we need another.
I mean, because if that's what you want, then this is the time to do it. While we're in between
I think it's been sold out.
Special
Every company,
exceptions.
It's been that many years, I think.
Yeah.
You shouldn't change much, but let's at least put it back into it.
You're right with that, TISA?
Yes, we are in the process with our attorney to look at the agreement. We're just going forward to come back to you guys with it. Right now, everything is still the same. It's just that the change of the company.
Does that sound right, Lou? Same.
Yes, I mean,
The company bought it.
they're here to get an extension based upon that original agreement that they bought out from Kruger. So, you either do or do not extend it, and if you want to go back and redo the agreement, now is the time. That is completely up to you. Otherwise, the agreement stands.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's been a while.
I remember all the discussion.
When does this exception run out, date-wise? Currently?
August 3rd.
So it's already expired.
Do you have a contract with Southern Company yet?
No, we do not have a contract.
Or Georgia Power, whomever?
There's no official contract in place at this time.
Okay.
They had to have this, if I remember correctly, you have to have this allowance to put solar panels there before you could go to Georgia Power, correct?
The special exemption permit?
Yeah.
We need to have it in place before we can build, but we don't necessarily need to have it to
I just remember when our first original Kruger came up here, they asked for that before they could even go to Georgia Power.
Okay.
So I just,
Yeah, it's not a written rule. It is definitely a benefit to them. It's less risk to the project, so that it will actually get built if you do sign a contract.
If this exception lapses while a new agreement can be done with the Development Authority, does that in some way negatively affect your ability to negotiate with Southern Company?
It will affect it, yes. The project has additional layers of risk involved with it. Because this is a multi-step project. Let's say it's 10 steps. This is step 5. It's difficult to do steps 6, 7, and 8 when we don't have this in place already.
It already lapsed. It lapsed August 3rd, right? Is that correct? It lapsed August 3rd. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're already
Thank
lapsed.
you, Jake.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is there anything else we need to know about your contract?
No, but I'm happy to answer any additional questions.
So, the question I have, and I apologize, I'm late, was at an appointment, but I was watching online. And the question I have is, at what point do we stop using COVID as the excuse? So as a government employee, who negotiates contracts, like we did away with that about 2022. There's no longer a COVID excuse. I mean, we're at a point right now that supply and demand is as is and will always be as is. So there won't be a faster service to do anything. So at what point are we gonna stop using COVID as the excuse for things?
Yep, we are getting to that time. Again, Georgia Power had their last procurement process, besides the one that we're in right now, was back in 22. So during that procurement process, they did not contract any projects at that time because prices were too volatile still. And even in today's day, long lead time items for projects, we're still looking at 2 years from order time to actually getting them. Granted, those have come down from what we've seen previously of 2.5, 3 years, but that's still twice as long as it was pre-COVID.
Jake, if you table this had them renegotiate and relook at their contract. And then brought it back once it's been redone, we can look at it and vote on it then. Within the-
Yes, that's well within your purview.
So you table
But
it.
that's up to, I can't tell you when their contract will be, they have their own lawyer that does
I'm just saying
that.
Okay, but that process could be done, that way you table it, that way it's then brought
Yes.
back up here, and all we're doing at that point is reviewing contracts.
Yes, if you renew the special exception, we are going under the old contract. And they are the successor to that contract via their buyout of Kruger. You want a new contract, then now is the time to do it.
I'll make a motion that we
Mr. Spillers, if I can ask a question quickly. The contract that you're referring to, are you referring to the special exemption permit or?
No, the
original agreement.
The agreement between us with the tax abatements and everything else.
Okay, so, we're just talking about the special exemption permit.
They're
I
not.
would just like to see, to update the abatement
Yeah.
part of the contract, because that's been, what, 6 years ago we did the original? And things have
7.
changed since then,
We had 2 extensions.
Yeah,
We've had 2
and now
extensions,
asking
right.
for another one for 2 years.
So, if I
You know,
may,
I'm all for this because it should benefit the county.
if
We're
I
not trying
may,
to stop it, but,
you have 2 topics, and obviously we got council in the room, but you have 2 topics that's being discussed. The MOU is a separate agreement than the zoning. The special exception for the land use out there, granted, if it is denied, we'll need a purpose for why it was denied based on land use.
I don't think they're saying they're gonna deny it, I think they're
No.
saying they're gonna table it and look at the MOU first.
Yeah.
That's all.
yeah, we don't want to deny them putting it out there, we just need to.
So did I understand correctly that the previous special exception has passed? It's done, that's
Mhm.
over with.
Right.
You don't go back and renew something that's over with. You had the time, they didn't get it, now we start back over, in that starting back over, you start back over on the contract. That's the way I see that. You don't table it, you just simply just start back over.
Chair, also like Mr. Seth said, that he got to have that exception to go forward with Georgia Power. It's also, it's a part of the steps that he needs to include. With the new MOU, yes, you can do a new MOU, but that is separate, that's the financial part of that project. The land use, I think that we should address that now, if you guys wanna go ahead with it. It's still not gonna change
I
your
think-
MOU, even if you do a new MOU.
So,
I still think it should be 3.
question for you.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
I'm not saying not to do a new MOU, but what I'm saying that if you do a new MOU, it's not gonna change anything as far as your land use that you need for him to do his project. It's 2 separate things.
Right.
That is correct.
Right. Right.
And it also can change, like I said, the tax abatement, everything can change.
So the MOU still has to come to the board to be voted on, correct?
Correct.
So that still be coming to the board.
It has to go through the Development Authority Board, and then once approved and recommended, then it comes before you for a hearing.
So questions then, so I've got the, special exception over here. Okay with putting it there, not a problem with that. Our question is more the MOU on this side. Special exception, he can have the special exception and pay full, well, he don't get the 40% off, he'll just get whatever the full price is without the regular MOU, he just get it without any discount. Until we agree on that MOU.
The MOU is in place. The MOU has, to my knowledge, has not expired.
It expired August
Correct,
3rd.
No, it says not.
No,
It'll
no,
be the first
special
one.
exception.
So special exception.
Two different issues.
So when's the MOU expire?
At the end of this year, December 31st, 2024.
So if you want to grant the special exception, you can. The MOU stands until it expires or until it's redone.
Then they gotta come back anyway.
They gotta come back for a separate issue.
Right.
Right.
This company is very, very litigious. If you've got your phones, just Google their name and you will get pages upon pages upon pages. And I had asked about this in the P and Z meeting and you didn't have an answer for me, and I don't know if you wanna answer to this now, you can. But they are extraordinarily litigious. So if we do this now and they don't get the deal that they want, is this something that they can come back on Crawford County for? And I don't know the answer to that. I'm not a lawyer. But when I Googled them and looked at them, there are literally pages and pages and pages of lawsuits that they are involved in now against county governments in different states. So I don't know how that factors into this decision.
Just keeps getting pushed.
Did you have something, Miss?
I was gonna bring that up. Sherry addressed it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. In other words, you better have everything in line the way it's supposed to be done, the correct way, or you're gonna be subject to a lawsuit.
I'll put one caveat on that. So we have had issues with counties in the past, more particularly on conditional use permits, and those have been, so conditional use is a set of rules from the county that come forward, and if you meet all those rules, you can get your permit in place. And we've had counties where we've met all those rules and they've denied us for things outside of what they've set. So therefore there is legal action that you can take against those counties, and that's what we've done, and that's what those lawsuits are. And it's not just our company, it's happened with several others. It's not a preference of ours, but sometimes those things happen and those things are in place for a reason.
Do y'all have these systems in other areas?
What's that?
Is this your
Yes,
first
there's
time
examples.
here in this area with the
Yes.
system?
With this kind of project?
With this kind
Yes.
of project? Where do you have these kind of projects in this country?
So we're based in North Carolina. We've done a lot of stuff in North and South Carolina. We have some stuff in Florida, and Minnesota as well.
I make a motion to table it till we get the new MOU.
No second?
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Coordinate with Tisha and
Okay.
get everything together.
Okay. Thank you.
For clarification, I was wondering if the rescue,
All right. Is anything settled? 2025 working budget, Q&A.
Hey, Jeff, can I ask you another question, please? I'm sorry I brought that thing up about the budget, because that really went off on a tangent. But, is there no way to get like some kind of a guarantee approximately how much money the county's gonna get? And I'll tell you why. Let me give you an example. The quarry is gonna do $14 million a year for the first couple of years. And the county, from what I remember, is maybe $300,000. Doesn't sound like very much, for that kind of a price. And so with this particular item, is there no other way of guaranteeing, or maybe not guaranteeing is maybe not too strong a word, or something else that's a little more settled for us as far as the county?
The MOU covers that. It's done in valuation bands. So based upon the valuations, like Nick described, it's laid out in the MOU. I can't tell you what the exact numbers are, God, that was years ago, but that's the way it works.
I understand.
So it's done, 10 million to 20 million, 20 to 50, whatever, and each band has a valuation.
Yeah,
attached.
I'm just saying that we need to be cautious when it comes to that, because that was 6 years ago, and things have changed dramatically between then and now. The technology is completely different, and the prices are also completely different.
I That's why we want to.
That's the reason we didn't make a decision tonight.
Exactly, smart way to handle it, yes, sir.
Y'all ready for me?
Yep, go ahead.
Alright, 2025 proposed budget. It's asking for my Excel product key, and I don't have it with me, but we're gonna try to work around this. My proposed number, if you look right there at the bottom, right there, 9,384,119 on expenditures and revenues.
Can you move that window over? Well, there
It
it
won't
is.
move. It's asking for my product key, and if I close it, it's gonna close it back down. I'm not sure what's going on. It's probably need the update. It wasn't doing it earlier, so let's see if I go to this one. Yep, same thing.
Can you shrink the other page just a little bit? I mean, it's gonna make it hard to see, but.
So, anyway, y'all have it in front, no, I didn't give y'all another book, cause y'all have one. But anyway, with all the copies that went out, several people, about 10 people picked them up or more. It's some slight changes in it, just a little bit increase, on both sides, expenditure revenue, but it is balanced at this point. I'm here for questions on individual budgets or any questions that anybody may have. But this is my proposed budget. This is what I'm going to submit. I'm submitting to you all. Commissioners, we have sat down and went through, and we sliced as much as we could slice. And this is where we are with the increase of everything that's gone up, inflation, just everything. This is where we're at. I told you all on last commission meeting that we were here that at this time, the millage rate, if we leave it the same, we can manage.
That's what we wanna hear. You got it? You got it figured out. Now I have to change the middle.
That's same, not, can't lower it, and we're not gonna raise it. We're gonna leave it where it's at.
And just for a refresher, the big hitters were
Liability insurance, medical, no new employees, no vehicles, no new equipment. That's basically where we are.
Anybody got any questions? Any specific thing to look at?
We'll be back here next commissioner meeting. Same place, same time, on the 20th. That'll be our last public hearing. We're gonna have a call meeting on Thursday, August the 29th at 6 o'clock to adopt the millage rate and the budget. I'll remind you all that again on the 20th, and it'll also be advertised. Because we want to do this by the end of the month.
A question.
Trish, y'all got anything you wanna add? Anything you wanna add?
And if you want a copy of the new proposed with the changes, I will have some available in the office in the morning. I have some ready now, just been ringing out the door.
Does this, since you didn't have the numbers in your computers gacking on you, does this count as a public meeting since we weren't able to see the numbers?
I mean, the number is there. I mean, the budget, I have given out the budgets. They're here.
Can you shrink that back page?
Or could you right click on Excel itself and then go to save as, and let's see if you can save it as a PDF file, and then maybe you can open it without Excel as a PDF.
Well, just 1 minute. Let me see something else. I'm trying to think that I saved it. In my email.
Did you send it to us?
Should be.
I did, but I'm trying to think that I sent all the new changes.
You can still email a copy.
Ever.
Email a copy.
I know, except you can start to get your new computer.
Technology is now over here.
Yeah. I am not your tech guy.
can't help it. It's just like my skin, you know. My children will say, "Did you restart?" Yeah. I only have 27 years of IT experience, managing people in a global environment. If you'll just, when you get that screen up, if you'll just slide over to a cell and right click, it might just let you save it as something else. Or if you click on the file itself and try to save it as something else. You need to fire your IT people.
Jake, so you want me to go take a break?
Well, whoever's got to put no product keys.
Y'all want to, let's take a short recess while they work on this for a second.
Can we edit it? Those